The views of this program are not necessarily the views of KJLL Radio, its management, or its sponsors. The host is solely responsible for its content. Enjoy.
Boston, Massachusetts, and it is an honor to be joined today by the entertainment director of Scullers and the former owner of the Jazz Workshop and Paul's Mall, which was the most substantive artistic club in the Boston area from the late 50s through the early 70s. It's an honor to be joined by Fred Taylor. Fred, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Hi. Nice to be with you, Jake.
It's a pleasure to be with you, my friend. Wanted to talk to you a little bit about Scullers Jazz Club right now. Fred has been sort of almost a magician in some ways, taking places like Scullers that were not in great financial shape and then turning them into extremely attractive places to go see music. And I was hoping, Fred, that you could talk a little bit about when you first took over Scullers, what it was like and what it's become now.
Well, it's in the Doubletree Guest Suites Hotel, which is on Soldiers Field Road in Boston. It's right along the Charles River. And originally it was a little lounge bar, had about 65 overstuffed chairs, and someone said they thought maybe if they put some jazz in there, it would bring some people, because no public transportation. It was a destination location. So they started with some local jazz, and they had a local booker trying to do things. And one day I got a call from the general manager, a great publicist, Sue Auclair, who was probably the great jazz publicist in the Boston area, had worked with me over the years on many jazz events, and so she suggested to the manager, you ought to call Fred Taylor. Maybe he could help out. This was in 1980, I think it was 89, and so I got a call, and he said, "Look, would you help out?" I said, "Well, I'll try to give you maybe a few suggestions, ideas." About a week or two went by, and he called me back. He said, "Look, will you just come in and run the damn place?" I said, "Well, I hadn't really been intending to get back in, but okay." So we went in, and I started with some, easy trios and some good artists out of New York. And of course, the thing, 65 chairs, and it was open, and the waitresses, there was a tab on each table, and I said, this is not the way to work. I gradually got the overstuffed chairs out. We brought in some banquet chairs, so we could increase the capacity a little bit, and as things went along, we kept upgrading the system, the sound, and the little lighting, and piano. Finally got a decent piano in there, and gradually just kept moving up, getting the big lounge chairs out and bringing in cafe chairs.
Did you rely? Who were some of the big names that you asked to come in early on to sort of give some credence to it?
Well, I'm trying to remember. We had Grover Washington Jr. At at Scullers. Oh gosh, I'm trying.
Freddie Hubbard, maybe.
Freddie Hubbard was in. I had and Mose Allison became a staple with us. I brought a lot of Jimmy McGriff. A lot of the Paul's Mall Jazz Workshop folks that were still, still in good shape and playing great. I was able to bring them into Dakota Staten. I had in Scullers in the early days. She was still wailing.
She was
just
singing
great.
away.
Marlena Shaw.
So you tapped into the reserves of the Paul's Mall
right, a lot
workshop.
Of Bobby Short. I had great days with Bobby Short in there. We brought Eartha Kitt, Lou Rawls.
I wouldn't
mind.
Joe Lovano.
Joe Lovano and Joe Basie. Joe from the Basie band. Oh God, this is ridiculous. I'm blanking.
It's okay. Joe Albany?
No. Here's to Life. Joe Williams. Joe Williams.
Joe Williams.
Oh,
I wouldn't have gotten it anyway.
Yeah. And then we've had the Basie band in the club, the Artie Shaw band. We've done a lot of just incredible things that they said, well, how did you get that into a club? Well, there are things that can be done if you know enough about it.
I want to, we're talking with Fred Taylor, who is the entertainment director at Scullers Jazz Club, and has really, seen the music scene in Boston develop over a long period of time. And I wanted to take you back, Fred, to your days in high school, as the story goes, and I want you to tell the story where you saved up enough money and you bought a tape recorder. And you went to, I believe, Storyville to see Brubeck. Why don't you take it from there?
Well, here's what happened. I went to BU, Boston University.
As did I.
And while I was there, I had a band that I fronted called the Don Creighton Orchestra. And my pianist's name was Creighton Hoyt, part of the band name. And Creighton used to tell me about when he was in the service, there was an incredible pianist in his unit, and if I ever get a chance, I should catch him. He's known out in the West Coast, but if he ever comes east, be sure to catch it. Well, one day, I saw in the newspaper, the Storyville ad says Dave Brubeck. So I said, oh my God, that's the guy that Creighton's been talking to me about. I gotta catch that. So I went down on a Sunday afternoon with my little tape recorder that this was my second. Tape recorders had just come onto the market really in the late 40s. They just begun to evolve. There was a Revere machine, 3 3/4 IPS 5-inch reel. I started with that one. But I had upgraded to this Tape Master 7-inch reel, 7.5 IPS, and I bought a real microphone, an Electro Voice 630. So I went down to Storyville on a Sunday afternoon, and I asked George Wein. I said, do you think I could record Dave? He says, I don't care as long as it's okay with him. So I introduced myself to Dave, and I said, Dave, Creighton Hoyt was as soon as I said Creighton Hoyt, he said, oh my God, Creighton saved my life in the Army. He said, anything you want to do, go ahead.
You put the mic right there.
So I fished around till I found where the balance point. So it was Paul Desmond. I think Joe Dodge at that time was the drummer. The bass player didn't make the afternoon session, so Dave played a little different. And I recorded the session. He said, gee, I'd love to hear what you got. I said, well, this is just a deck I have to plug it into, so we'd have to go back to my folks. I was still living with my folks in Newton. So they all climbed into my car, and we went back to my folks' house.
What a classic story.
And I plugged it into my big, sound system, and he said, geez, that's great. I've never been caught doing, playing quite like that. Could you get me a copy? So I said, yeah, tomorrow, Monday, I can go to a studio and have them make a dub. He says, send it to me. So I did that. About 3 days later, I get a call. Listen, I'm in New York with my record people. He was with the original Fantasy Records.
Mm-hmm.
He said, I think we'd like to put that out. I said, whoa, gosh, yeah, okay. So I got a hold of Nat Hentoff, and he wrote the liner notes, and a photographer, John Brook, who was very well known in the Boston area. The photo was Desmond and Dave in sort of a black, and it came out on a 10-inch LP. Mm-hmm. LPs were just beginning to come onto the market. And the New York Times picked it up and said that it was one of the best new jazz recordings, although done on amateur equipment, achieving natural balance.
Hold on for a second. This is blowing my mind. You had a single mic.
Yeah.
You had one mic. And did you have a stand, or where did it actually?
Yeah.
And so, how did you find them?
I kept listening.
To the sound check, when they were warming up.
Yeah, I was listening and putting the mic and listening to what I was getting until I felt was the sweet spot of the balance between the piano and the sax and the drums. And I've always had a very good ear. And matter of fact, I correct a lot of the people, the mixers in the club. I will tell them, you need to cut down a little on the EQ or the highs, knock them down, or bring up the low or something. I've got a good ear for that stuff.
So because Fantasy was primarily they were based in the Bay Area. So
yes.
So they were in New York they were going to make the album in New York?
No, but they happened to be, they were in New York when he went after leaving Boston, he went to play in New York, and I guess for some reason the, Saul Weiss, I think, was the owner of he was in New York at the time.
Just for the record, it came out on a 10-inch. Nat wrote the liner notes.
Yeah.
Did Nat said that despite the amateur recording, this is an amazing sounding recording?
No, just everybody loved it.
It had a good audience. It had an ambient sound to it.
Yeah, the thing that got them was, and then this was a second article in the New York Times, I think John Wilson wrote later in the year, that although the LP format was out, people were still tending to record in 3-minute cuts. And this is one of the first extended use of the extended time, because Over the Rainbow ran 7 minutes. And that, by the way, that recording of Over the Rainbow is one of the things that was one of the signatures of that album. And because of the write-up and the popularity of that album, that's why Columbia signed Dave.
Mm-hmm. Now, so it's called Brubeck Live at Storyland?
Yeah,
Storyville.
Dave Brubeck, Paul Desmond at Storyville.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
On 10-inch. We're talking with Fred Taylor, who's the entertainment director at Scullers Jazz Club, and was instrumental in forming what was the most vibrant jazz and all music club in Boston, Paul's Mall and the Jazz Workshop. What was the...
Yeah,
go ahead.
Jake, if there's an anecdote that follows on this. Many years later, in 1978, when Paul's Mall and the Jazz Workshop closed in April of that year, I went on and I produced the Green Mountain Music Series up near low Burlington, Vermont, on this ski mountainside. And one of the weekends I had the Maynard Ferguson Big Band and the Dave Brubeck Quartet. Paul Desmond had died earlier that year, and Dave came up to me. He said, "I got to tell you something." He that I was with Paul at the very end. He was pretty lucid almost till he passed, and he told me that his favorite recording of everything that he had done was the "You Go to My Head" on your original recording. I tell you, I went into tears.
This is profound. This is breaking news on the Jake Feinberg Show. I on the 10-inch, how many tracks were actually, you recorded the early show and the late show from that story?
Well, it was a Sunday afternoon. No, it was just the matinee show, 4 to 7, I think it was, or 4 to 6:30 it ran.
And they took maybe, how many cuts off of that?
We had about 6 made up the whole LP.
So, let's see. So, essentially, what was your role in the jazz workshop? Let's talk a little bit about the what were the driving forces in getting this jazz workshop off the ground?
Well, it was booking. Well, actually, the beginning technique of the jazz workshop was to bring in a single artist like Sonny Stitt, Freddie Hubbard, and with a local rhythm section. And the local rhythm sections happened to be people like Alan Dawson on drums, John Neves, who was a great bass player, Ray Santisi on piano. So we had hot rhythm sections here because Berklee School of Music had great teachers and students. As a matter of fact, what we used to do, I would call Ray or Alan and say, "Hey, listen, I'm bringing Sonny Stitt in. Have you got a student, a bass player that you think is really great? Maybe we could put his feet to the fire and have him in the." So I would introduce some of the students and put them in with the veteran bass, veteran piano, say, and drum, and a lot of the people today, people like George Mraz, Harvey Mason, the drummer, he said, "Yeah, we went to Berklee, but we really got our education at the jazz workshop."
They cut their teeth there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, because the opening track, just for the information, we led in with a new intro to the Jake Feinberg Show that we're going to be remastering over time. It was Grover Washington Jr. from the Jazz Workshop in 1972 and 73. And it's really funny, Fred, that you bring that up because the names don't come to me right away. But it was the rhythm section that night, that particular evening. I don't recognize any of the guys on there, and I've talked to my friends about it because I was pretty used to Grover playing on Mr. Magic, and you knew he was playing with Gary King on bass and Idris Muhammad and those guys. And I bet you these all were guys that were Berklee students that you were throwing their feet to the fire.
No, I'll tell you, but at the time when Grover came in, that was his own group. Now, what happened is we gradually started to move towards the self-contained. The jazz artists were beginning to consolidate their own groups, and we gradually evolved into bringing the actual artist group in. From the beginning was with the rhythm sections, and then every so often we would still revert to an exceptional player and our rhythm section. But as time went on, it became pretty much all the set groups. By the way, I'll give you my Miles story. 1967 was the first time that I encountered Miles. I had booked him, and there were a lot of, there was quite a story already about Miles being maybe a little difficult, or so forth and so on. Matter of fact, there was a gag that was going around at the time. I got a Miles Davis doll. What's that? Well, you wind it up and it turns its back on you.
The antisocial one.
Yeah. So anyway, Monday night, I come down to the club. The first show started at 9. Miles is sitting at the bar, and I go up to him. I said, "Hi, Miles. I'm Fred Taylor, And I could have been talking to the wall. And then finally I said, how do you like to do your sets? So then he turned around and he looked at me and said, I came here to play, man. So I looked at him and I said, we start at 9, we close at 2, you're in charge. And I walked away. Well, I'll tell you, it's the best thing I could have ever said. He got his band up on that stand at 9, played his ass off that night, came up to me at the end. He said, what did you think of the band? I said, they sound good, but I'll bet you they'll sound great by Wednesday. He said, you're right. Well, that meeting, see, Miles is the kind of guy he was no fluff. He get right to the point. And what I gave it right back to him. He said, he came here to play. And I said, yeah, well, we go from 9 to 2, you're in charge. That frankness between the two of us sort of started a bond which lasted lifelong. I'm the only guy he would play for in Boston.
The idea that you allowed him flexibility, you weren't going to micromanage him. You said, you're in charge. You were secure enough to say, okay, this is my club, but he's the one that's going to play.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's so. He showed up in '67. We got a couple minutes left before we take the hard break here. But who was the band? Who was in that band?
God, I don't remember the first band. Of course, there was Herbie Hancock. There was Wayne Shorter. There was Henderson, bass player.
Who was on drums? Jimmy Cobb on,
Jimmy was one of the early ones, yeah. He had so many great, Miles was a great musician developer. He found musicians and brought them. And in 1981, when he had disappeared for about 6 years.
I want to save that story.
Okay.
I want to save that story. But it's important. I wanted to ask you about, we're going to talk to Fred about a myriad of things we have. We're just so lucky to have him here on the Jake Feinberg Show. We're live from Boston, Massachusetts. We love Tucson, and we know it's 110 degrees here, but we also, when we're on the road, we're constantly pursuing, doing primary source archival history with my jazz heroes and other people like Fred, directors, entertainers who were integral in bringing the music into the ears of regular people and making it an understandable music. Not what you would consider now this sort of, whatever you want to call, whatever jazz has turned into, this sort of fluff, smooth jazz. This was real jazz, whether it's bebop or post-bop or funk or fusion. For the record, when we come back, we're going to talk about the significance of a independent radio station. Sounds familiar, KJLL listeners? Independent radio station WBCN in Boston, which was integral in helping the Jazz Workshop and Paul's Mall get the music out to the populace. We're going to go to break now, and when we come back, we're going to do a whole lot more. We're joined by Fred Taylor. Fred, hang tight, and when we come back, we're going to do a whole lot more.
Brother Kenny Powell on the drums and Brother Larry McDonald on the bottom.
CNN Radio, I'm Stan Case. Officials in Minot, North Dakota estimate floodwaters from the Souris River have heavily damaged about 4,000 homes. Stuart Dull is one of thousands of people forced to evacuate. He says they didn't have much time to get out.
I tell my wife to just gather up what you need to live for that moment. Clothes, some shoes, some underwear.
The river's expected to crest overnight. Testimony scheduled to resume Monday morning in the Casey Anthony murder trial. The Florida judge in charge of the case abruptly canceled Saturday's court session, saying only that a legal issue had come up. Anthony's accused of killing her 2-year-old daughter. Federal investigators are looking into Friday's deadly collision between an Amtrak train and a semi-truck. At least 2 people were killed in the crash near Lovelock, Nevada. And a Libyan government official says NATO airstrikes hit a bakery and restaurant in Albrega Saturday, killing 15 civilians. This is CNN Radio.
Hey everybody, Jay Farner here, and I'd like to introduce the Yorgage from Quicken Loans. That's right, the Yorgage. Our Yorgage is better than a traditional mortgage because it conforms to your goals. In fact, it's the only fixed-rate home loan that allows you to custom design a term that works best for you, anywhere between 8 to 30 years. So give Quicken Loans a call today at 800-970-2611 or go to quickenloans.com.
Other restrictions may apply. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states. Nationwide licensing number 3030.
Aaron, technician from Safelite Auto Glass.
My last customers had quite a shock this morning. The side window and the windshield on their car had been shattered. They called Safelite right away. We got more windshields and side glass in stock than anyone. So I was able to fix it fast and get them back on the road. And they were happy because our work is backed by a national lifetime warranty.
Call Safelite 24/7 at 1-800-800-2727.
Safelite Repair, Safelite Replace.
Jay Farner here with Quicken Loans. Right now, homes are more affordable than they've been in decades. Quicken Loans has a mortgage program that will help you buy that perfect home. With our streamlined approach and proactive updates, we provide you with the certainty that you need to search for the home of your dreams. So give Quicken Loans a call today at 800-970-2611 or go to quickenloans.com. Call now to find out how much home you can afford. Quicken Loans, engineered to amaze.
Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states. Nationwide licensing number 3030.
How do we celebrate summer? Saving money with eValues.
Member Nicole Recker on the Sam's Club eValues Savings Celebration. June 29th through July 4th, save on top of already low Sam's Club prices, like $50 off a Samsung 40-inch LED TV,
$2 off Artisan Fresh Chicken Sausage, $1 off seedless watermelon,
and more. Not a member? Join June 29th through July 4th. Get the money-saving benefit plus members enjoy all year. eValues at Sam's Club. Savings made simple. Supplies are limited and may not be available in all clubs. One item per membership, no rain checks.
Folks, this is Jake Feinberg. Every Friday night I get takeout from Bai Tong Restaurant, which serves Tucson's most authentic Thai cuisine. Pad Thais, fresh vegetables, and spicy Penang curry are my personal favorites, but every meal is sumptuous and cooked to order. Located at 4853 East Speedway Boulevard, Bai Tong serves compelling and affordable lunch specials as well as a full dinner menu. Bai Tong has ingratiated itself with the community by providing a peaceful environment to enjoy a meal with friends and family. Open weekdays for lunch 11 to 3, 5 to 9:30 for dinner Sunday to Thursday, until 10 on Friday and Saturday. So come down to Bai Tong Restaurant at 4853 East Speedway Boulevard to experience a taste of Thailand. When Coffee Times first opened, many wondered how this standalone coffee hut could survive among the beasts of Java lore. But some 10 years later, the answer is a resounding yes. Located at 3401 East Speedway Boulevard, Coffee Times specializes in many different drinks from mocha fraps to lattes to my personal favorite, the Ice Power Coffee. The best part about Coffee Times is their convenient two-way drive-thru, lunch menu, and supreme service. Not to mention their weekly special. The next time you're in the area, head over to Coffee Times on Speedway between Alberton and Country Club. It will definitely kickstart your day. Folks, this is Jake Feinberg. One of the first things I wanted to do when I moved to Tucson was find authentic Chinese cuisine. After a tip from the Chinese Student Association, I headed over to Badar Chinese Restaurant. Well, it's been 7 years, and I have never looked back. Located at 7321 East Broadway Boulevard, Badar has been a family-run operation since 1992. The award-winning chef produces succulent dishes from sizzling ginger chicken to salt and pepper shrimp. The thing that separates Badar from the rest is that the chef procures ancient oriental dishes with the exotic island flair of Taiwan. Most importantly, there are no gimmicks or razzle-dazzle at Badar. You won't find any flat-screen TVs or karaoke machines. Badar is a place to go enjoy good food and spend time with your family. It exudes peace and tranquility after a long week of work. So come down and check out Badar Chinese Restaurant. Hong Hao Chu. It's that good. Folks, this is Jake Feinberg. Being a father, I know there is nothing more important than your child's health. And nobody is more dedicated to children's health in Southern Arizona than Dwayne Dyson. Dr. Dyson is Tucson's finest pediatrician and has devoted much of his professional career to improving the lives of children. Located at 4530 East Camp Fort Lowell, Dr. Dyson's resume speaks for itself. After doing his undergraduate work at Cal Berkeley, his schooling took him to Morehouse School of Medicine, where he mentored young adolescents about the need for pediatric physicians in Atlanta, and worked extensively with infants at the Texas Children's Hospital. The special thing about Dr. Dyson is that while his in-house care is exceptional, he also prepares families about what to expect once they leave the office. Dr. Dyson provides comprehensive and honest analysis for all of his patients. Dr. Dyson and his family live and work in Tucson because he knows how vibrant and diverse the community is. He is committed to procuring a robust family health center that can instill trust and alleviate the concerns of parents. Like I said,
His resume speaks for itself. For more information, check out DysonPediatrics.com.
Today is the entertainment director of Scullers Jazz Club and the former head of Paul's Mall and the Jazz Workshop, among other things, Fred Taylor. Fred, thank you so much for being a part of my show today.
Okay, nice to be here. Nice to be anywhere.
Nice to be, exactly. And I just wanted to put a cap on this Miles thing because, you know, there's a lot of and rightfully so. I mean, he wasn't easily accessible all the time, and he wasn't always the nicest person in the world. But why don't you paint the picture that you knew of Miles, and you know, from your point of view, talk about him as the person more so than the player.
Well, as I said, we kind of had a bonded with in attitudes that he likes somebody that's just straightforward, gets right to the point, no fluff, and I like I kind of like the same thing myself. So he would, I would get calls sometimes at 3 a.m, and he'd say, "Hey, I gotta come in. I got an MF great new group," so I would scramble to open up a date, and then we'd bring him in. We debuted every new hit. We debuted his Electric when he went Electric. We debuted everything. Then he disappeared for about 6 years, and then we heard rumors that he was going back into the Columbia studio, starting to do some work and recording, and then I got a call. He wanted to. He's gonna start back, and he's got a big concert at the Kennedy Center in New York, and he wants to work out. So he called me to say, "Can you do something?" Now the club's Paul's Mall and Workshop had closed. This is now 1981. And the clubs had closed in 78. But I had kind of always had in mind in case something came up, and I had scouted a place almost next door to where I lived, where there was a club. It was a disco in the front, but there was a great club that wasn't being utilized in the back. So I said, you know what, I think we can pull it together. And I went to this fellow who owned the club, and I said, listen, would you let me use the club? You can take the liquor. I'll take care of the artist and the advertising and everything and take the door. He says, yeah. I said, who is it? I said, it's Miles Davis. We happen to be a jazz fan. I said, oh, my God, yes. So we brought Miles in. It was on a Thursday, and we did Thursday through Sunday, 2 shows a night. The first night was one of the most electrifying. People from all over the world, press from all over the world came, from Japan, from Belgium, from London, from France. It was just unbelievable. And he came in his Ferrari, drove down. He was in a jumpsuit, and he was still a little bit frail. And we walked him in. He had to come in a side area, so the audience saw him as we were heading to the dressing room, and they just burst out in applause. And I had a little an award recognition that we presented him with, and then he started. And that band, by the way, was the introduction of Marcus Miller on bass, and Al Foster was on drums.
Unbelievable. Yeah, no, Marcus Miller is playing with Georgia Duke now.
Yeah. Well, Marcus he's incredible. And Mike Stern was on guitar.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
Wow.
And Bill Evans on sax, and Minu Sinalu on percussion. And it was just incredible. It was electrifying.
Did BCN record?
No, but Columbia recorded it, and there's a Live at Kicks is an album that has a lot of that material.
And just for the record, I'm acquiring the 10-inch Fred Taylor recording of Brubeck and Desmond from Storyville from '53 as well as we speak. We're joined here by Fred Taylor. Fred, I wanted to ask you because my real niche area is the early 1970s, and what I can deem from that time that made it so special was this transition between acoustic and electric music. Can you talk a little bit about how you saw it transform as far as at the workshop and also at Paul's because of the R&B and the reggae and the kind of stuff that you were seeing at that time?
Well, I'll tell you, one of the things that is funny, when we first started in the workshop, I had a Macintosh 150-watt amp driving 2-column speakers, and in the mall we had something. I had a Shure Vocal Master system. It was one of the first self-contained amplifier mixes. Had 6 channels, and we had these 2 Shure columns. As time went on, and groups used to arrive maybe in a station wagon with the bass and the drums. As time went on, the station wagons and the cars morphed into semis, and 4 crew members jump out, and about $50,000 worth of electronic equipment get hauled into the club, and our little system grew to these 3 600-watt amps and mixing boards with giant speakers. I mean, it's part of the technical evolution, the musical evolution. That everything kind of morphed, kept moving up, and the electric bass, the electric keyboards, the guitar amps, everything was getting bigger and louder, and it really. And then, of course, Miles, when he went electric, there was a whole controversy, and a lot of the jazz families divided between. No, I want the acoustic. No, yeah, but Miles he's now electric. And of course,
he wasn't singular in that though. I mean, there was.
Oh no.
There were other. Who were some of the early?
Well, Return to Forever, Chick Corea,
right.
Who, by the way, I'll be doing a concert with a Return to Forever 4 this summer with
Lenny White will be in.
Lenny White.
Al
Stanley Clark. No, Al won't be in this, but Jean-Luc Ponty and Frank Gambale. And opening for them, by the way, is going to be Zappa plays Zappa, Dweezil Zappa, his son.
Zappa.
And that's going to be the opening act for Return to Forever.
Not Moon Unit, but Dweezil.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. Well, that's a great night. And when is that going to be?
I think it's August 9th at the Bank America Pavilion here in Boston. But that's a national tour. That'll probably be around. Keep an eye open for it.
Yeah, maybe down in the Southwest.
But
but
that was Chick was one of the Return to Forever was one of the primo fusion groups, and actually Grover, in essence, made that move that straddled straight ahead into fusion and what has been somewhat called smooth jazz, and then Joe Zawinul came along with Weather Report.
Yeah, those were the I'm thinking more of like guys like Freddie Hubbard, who would come in with a band. They would cut an album for Creed Taylor, like a CTI kind of album with George Cables or Kent Brinkley, those guys, and then they'd come in. Would they essentially go on a tour, and then one of their stops would always be at the workshop?
Yeah. We were, but a lot of times, because New York to Boston is a no-brainer, so we were able to book a lot of things, and we weren't dependent on tour necessarily, because the New York was loaded with all the great musicians. I mean, we started matter of fact, in 1964, I played the original John Coltrane group with McCoy and Elvin,
Jimmy Garrison.
And Jimmy Garrison. Yeah.
Who were some of the West Coast guys that would come over that you have in memory? Aside from Brubeck,
I had Hampton Hawes, which was a rare occasion. West Coast, we had,
he's searching for it right now, folks.
Yeah, the flute.
Herbie Mann?
Well, Herbie was in, but there's another great flute player.
Charles Lloyd?
Well, yeah, Charles Lloyd. We brought in Michael White.
Of course.
But I'm the flute player I'm trying to think of.
It'll come to you. I want to transition.
Yeah.
There's a great local political story here where you had the original Sun Ra Orchestra.
Yeah, we had. Yeah, this is kind of fun right now.
Yeah.
We had Sun Ra and his orchestra at Paul's Mall, and currently the governor of Massachusetts is Deval Patrick, and Deval's father was Pat Patrick, a saxophone player in the
Pat Patrick. I have Pat Patrick
in Sun Ra's group, and we made note of that, and we've made little presentations with Deval in honor of that.
Oh, that is great.
Yeah, that's a kind of interesting little piece of history.
It's important to point out that the Jazz Workshop was dedicated to jazz players and university students, but Paul's Mall was integral for a whole different variety of music, and in one case, a very famous show that has been leaked out on the internet from 1973, where Bob Marley and the Wailers came to Paul's Mall, but actually it started earlier when the movie The Harder They Come came out, and I was hoping you could take us through that, because that was really the first time reggae was introduced to New England.
Right, that was a groundbreaking movie. Jimmy Cliff and The Harder They Come was brought into a great little theater in Cambridge called the Orson Welles Theater on Mass Avenue in Cambridge, just outside of Harvard Square. It was near what they call Porter Square. And usually movie companies went to the newspapers to do their promotion of new films, but a very astute promotion guy at WBCN, which was an independent renegade FM station.
Independent radio, baby.
Yeah. And their promotion, this wonderful guy, Kenny Greenblatt, went to the movie distributor and said, hey, listen, this Orson Welles Theater with The Harder They Come, this is a music movie. You really need radio to promote this movie, not newspaper. And he convinced them, and they did a fabulous job of promoting and playing the Jimmy Cliff music and encouraging people, and it became a giant hit. And that was the first exposure of reggae to the market, and it got popularized, and that movie ran for months and months, and as a matter of fact came back year after year. Because of that, I got a call from a booker who worked with the famous ABC agency out of New York, who had been spending time down in Jamaica and had met Bob Marley and was all excited about his music, and he managed to convince him to come to America, and he put together a tour. He called me and he gave me this whole story, and I said, Jesus, let's do it, because we've already got this Jimmy Cliff thing, and so we brought it in. That was the first date. I don't know if it was the first date in the country, but it was definitely the first time in Boston that a live reggae band had played, and Peter Tosh was in that original group, and WBCN then broadcast one of the shows from Paul's Mall, and as you've mentioned, there are pieces of it floating around.
When I was in college, before the CDs were popular, but before iPods and these types of things, when I was rocking my analog cassette recorder, I remember distinctly seeing that analog cassette floating around Allston, Massachusetts, and it's all over the country. It's a very famous show. Did you have groups? Did you have a Curtis Mayfield come in at all?
Oh yeah,
The Impressions.
Oh yeah, we did a lot. The Parliament Funkadelics, the Manhattans, who, by the way, the Manhattans are still one of our hot R&B groups at Scullers, even to this very day. And we have Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes, and we played R&B at Paul's Mall, and we played comedy. Cheech and Chong recorded one of their albums, Bamboo, at Paul's Mall.
Richard Pryor would come.
Richard Pryor,
Bette
Flip
Midler
Wilson,
would come.
Lily Tomlin, Henny Youngman. I mean, we did comedians across the board. We broke groups like the Pointer Sisters, Earth, Wind, and Fire. Aerosmith actually came out of Paul's Mall.
I was going to, and also, and then you have, before we get into, let's not forget to talk about the Boss, but this is more of a point of view question, but yeah. I think it's important to talk about, when we talk about long-standing jazz clubs, is it your philosophy that having sort of just your standard jazz club it's not good enough? You need to have versatility and variety, which is why Paul's Mall, which had more of the funk and the R&B and the soul mixed with the workshop, attracted a more diverse scene. Is that kind of thing?
Diversity is the key to staying alive in the entertainment business. And I'll tell you, we have a lot of arguments with what I call the jazz police.
The
purists, which is great, but you also have to know that there are other people out there, and not everybody likes chocolate ice cream. You know what I always say? Howard Johnson knew something when he came out with 28 flavors. He sensed that
variety is the spice of life. Right?
Yeah. So, but there's a great Miles Davis was. I love this is one of the great lines. He was asked in an interview once what kind of music he liked best, and he answered, "Good music." And I tell you, that has been my mantra. It doesn't so much matter what the specific category is. Is it great? Is it good? And that's still a guiding principle.
It's harder now today because the costs are much greater than it was back in the early 70s when you could bring in bands for a relatively cheap cost. I mean, I think part of the reason why diversity, if you were going to bring in the average white band and, like for instance, if that was coexisting today, and you were going to bring in a big R&B group and a big jazz group, that's just a huge amount of money that a lot of clubs don't have.
Well, not only that, but I'll tell you one of the major changes that has took place. In the old days, musicians came in self-contained. Today, there's an item we call backline, and you have to provide, and the backline cost can run $1,500, $2,000 a night for rental of the keyboards, the bass amps, the drum sets, and this is part of your cost operating today, because these groups on tour can't afford to carry all this equipment.
Therefore, you have to rent it at the location.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit in our remaining time here with Fred Taylor, the entertainment director of Scullers Jazz Club. let's talk about some of the newer acts, some of the new people on the scene that you've seen at Scholars.
Well, I'll tell you, one of the things that I love is I love bringing the legends and the greats, but I also love the new emerging talent. And we've had the pleasure and privilege of at Scholars of introducing Diana Krall. We introduced Jane Monheit. We introduced Michael Bublé. We introduced Jamie Cullum. And New York Voices has been one of our. I love that group, and so we've had a lot. Now, right now, I am working
Diane Krall, by the way. Diana Krall, Tucson native, played with Brian Bromberg quite a bit in Tucson.
Did she really?
Yes,
That's
yes,
interesting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Continue.
She originally comes from Vancouver, Washington.
Oh, I'm thinking of I'm thinking of somebody different then. Okay, yeah. Go ahead.
Right now, I'm very excited. I'm working with one of the most incredible young ladies. Her name, you ready for this? Her name is Grace Kelly, and she just turned 19. She is a little Asian saxophonist, writer, composer, arranger, singer. She has already performed with, matter of fact, if you check her out on GraceKellyMusic.com, she is, I'm telling you right now, you're going to see she is going to be one of your next superstars. She has already performed with Wynton Marsalis, with Brubeck, with Chris Bodie. By the way, I introduced Chris Bodie, too. That's another one of our Scholars finds. And Grace, right now, her latest album, Man with a Hat, is out with guest Phil Woods.
Wow.
And she, matter of fact, I'll be working with July 2. I'm leaving with her. We're going to Montreal to play the Montreal Jazz Festival, Grace Kelly's band with Phil Woods. And then we're doing the Newport Jazz Festival with Grace and Phil. And we're doing a Rockport, and then she's going to be going to Europe. So anyways, that's another. And then another exciting new little project we have is a tribute to Carmen McRae, who I use. By the way, Carmen is one of the great, great singers who is totally underserved in recognition. She got lost behind the Billie Holidays and the Sarah Vaughns and the Ella Fitzgerald, but Carmen could deliver a lyric and a song like no one else. And we have this great singer, Sean Montero, whose father was Jimmy Woody, Duke Ellington's bass player. And Sean grew up in the shadow of Carmen and everything, and we have put together, the album will be out in about a month, a tribute to Carmen McRae with Mike Renzi, a fabulous pianist who was Lena Horne's accompanist, who tours Liza Minnelli, and he is also the musical director for Sesame Street. And he's at Providence, a resident here, and Mike is a jazz giant on piano, but he has got one of the great skills as being an accompanist, which is another whole skill. Well, his trio and Sean, hopefully you'll be seeing and hearing a tribute to Carmen McRae. So I'd like to. There's a lot of things, and by the way, I was instrumental in bringing Esperanza out. She broke every existing record. The first jazz artist to win a Grammy as the best new act this year.
As we finish up here with Fred Taylor, we're live from Boston. This is the Jake Feinberg Show. Fred, I wanted to tell you, I am going to be there's going to be a benefit concert for my radio show in Southern California in Los Angeles. It's a tribute to Gene Russell, who was a promoter and a player of jazz music. For guys that were part of the LA jazz scene, instrumental guys, who never really had a crack at making their own album until Gene got some money and put them out on the Black Jazz label. Guys like Doug and Gene Carn.
Which I played at Jazz Workshop.
Well, Doug and for the record, these guys, Henry Franklin, Calvin Keys, George Harper, Bobby Pierce, Carl Burnett, Art Pepper's drummer. they are going to be hosting a benefit concert for the Jake Feinberg Show at Barbara Morrison's Cafe in Los Angeles. And, Doug and Gene are back together again. So I would like to, work on collaborating with you. I'd love to see them come up here to Scullers and maybe be able to play a little bit as well.
I've played Gene Carn many times at Scullers, not in the last couple of years, but Gene has appeared maybe 4 or 5 times at Scullers.
And
gentlemen, we have a hard break.
Yeah, we're going to a hard break, folks. This has been the Jake Feinberg Show. Fred Taylor, thank you so much for joining us, and this is the first of many times, my friend.
Okay, it's been great being with you.
All right, everybody. See you next week.
Lead to more for them. The wheels of justice are now turning for alleged Boston mob boss James